Well, welcome everyone to another edition of the Victoria Leadership Collective, this kind of digital thing in which we are trying to have a community conversation around leadership, bring in leadership experts, leaders in leadership. You're all going to just throw apples at me pretty soon. And just get a sense of what this word means, because we throw it around so much. And so today we're very lucky, honored to have professional speaker and host and producer of the Relationships at Work podcast, Russel Lolacher. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Oh man, did you ever? Got really
Oh,
German there. I was really appreciate
Nice.
that.
oh,
Yes, thank you.
fantastic. Okay. I feel good saying that because people mispronounce my name often. So, I'm in that place.
I hear you.
And of course, we got Rishi Sharma. Rishi, how are you today?
Awesome. Doing well.
Fantastic. Well, Russell, tell us about this podcast, sort of why you started it, when, all that kind of stuff, and then maybe we can begin to talk about some of the common themes coming out of your conversations.
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, relationships at work. I started it in early 2022. We just clocked over 200 episodes a couple of weeks ago. It is a guest.
Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. It's a lot of freaking work, as I'm sure you know. And I'm pumping out 2 episodes a week. So
Oh, boy. Okay.
I got guest episodes every Tuesday and mini insight episodes just for me every Thursday that are like under 10 minutes or so.
Wow. That is a lot of work. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Blood, sweat, and tears, but thank you very much. So in a nutshell, the real focus of the show is honest conversations about leadership, because I don't think we are honest enough about leadership, specifically around the impacts of leadership. I ask the same question in every episode of my guests, which is, what's your best or worst employee experience? And this is just sort of like an insight to how broken leadership is the fact that people will bring up stories from 20 or 30 years ago.
Wow.
And the thing is what leaders don't understand is when they are good, they're inspiring and modeling behavior that people will keep with them for decades. If they are bad, they will inform trauma for 20 to 30 years for people.
No kidding. Wow.
And I think leaders are so ignorant to that fact because they're so badly trained or not trained, or they just don't have the situational or self-awareness to know that. Because and from what I've learned is leadership is systemically broken across all industries. We can get into that. But it is the intent of my show is really to have an honest conversation about what leadership could be and should be. And especially if leaders are not seeing that modeled at the top of the organization, or seeing that that's what's being rewarded, or that's what's being promoted or encouraged. So it's just sort of to sort of cut through the BS and go, okay, what do we actually want? What does diversity actually mean? I love that you talk about defining leadership, because that is the DNA of a lot of my show, is that we don't define anything, but we talk about things all the time.
Yeah, we did try definitions. We had reasonably opposite.
Sure.
We struggle with it because you can't define. You shouldn't define it. It's a continuum. It's a constant learning of something. And I have my opinions on what leadership
Sure.
should be, and what a good leader will do to take that step to be one of those genuine leaders. And then John had some thoughts as well, but this is why we're here.
Well, I sort of micro leadership, didn't I? I sort of said even decisions, as much as whether or not you're going to go for a walk or exercise today, are these sort of micro leadership moments that some people might say are all around initiative, etc. But eventually, if you add all those things up and you get to a point at a workplace where you are faced with a leadership challenge, maybe all of those little micro leadership moments add up to you being able to be a leader in that, in that moment.
True building blocks. Could be true building blocks, right? But this is the thing, like Russell said, you mentioned training. I don't think
it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. Well, I did. I just did a master's, and it was I could have did an MBA, but I was like, no, I want to do a master's in leadership. And there's certain things that pushed me in that direction. EDI pushed me in that direction. We're pretty much in a good position,
right,
monetary wise. So I didn't really need to do the MBA. I don't need someone to teach me how to make money. We're doing okay. So I picked leadership, and wow, what a great choice for me it was to see what skills I do have, but I was never taught how to be an appropriate, effective, empathetic leader, showing dignity, how I think a leader should be. I would take the risks and I think that's leadership, but the
So this
training.
blows me away, okay? So I'm the fellow who likely hasn't been involved in workplace environments most of my life.
Sure.
But what I am a bit startled at is that there is not this sort of infrastructure of leadership training, of emphasis on leadership, on the emotional impact of lack of leadership. Russell, your comments are like wow to me.
Well, to be fair, so here's the funny thing about defining leadership. It doesn't matter. And I'll be honest, it doesn't matter how we define leadership. It's how other people are defining leadership in the organization. I'll give you an example. You can take a master's, you can get a degree in leadership, you can do 200 freaking episodes of a masterclass leadership podcast episodes. And if you're and you can read every Brene Brown and Simon Sinek book known to man. But then if you go into an organization that only rewards and promotes people that fix their problems and that is more focused on the results, not the journey to the results, then what are we actually talking about? So your leadership definition means nothing if that's not how they're defining leadership, maybe not in words, but certainly in actions or inactions, then it doesn't matter. So it's really understanding what the definition is for you and what you're willing to put up with in an organization. Don't get me wrong, there is great leadership. And again, you're talking about leadership, but I always want to put the word good and great in front of it because there's horrible and ignorant leadership too. So when we talk about leadership, we need to be really specific about what we're talking about so that we can define it and address it or encourage it based on what it is. And I don't think we go far enough, and I don't think leaders lead well enough to get the positive benefits of that. They'll give you lip service like crazy. Go take a course, Brene Brown, go read a book, Simon Sinek. But when it comes right down to it, that's not part of my performance conversations or performance reviews. Those are not part of anything around those lines.
It was the question I wanted to ask you, Russell, because John and I we have a lot of care in this space, and we know that there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and that's why we thought he called me up, we sat down, let's do a podcast and have conversations on leadership, and I was in right away because we are not talking about it enough.
Nope.
So, and here you are with a couple of podcasts in,
couple hundred.
I said a couple hundred,
Three or four.
Why leadership? Like, why for you? I know what my reasons were. Like, you jumped on this, you've been on it for a couple of years. Like, why do you think it's so important?
So I'll give you a quick little origin story. So I used to be pretty well known in the customer service space. I got on a lot of like top this list, top that lists, and I was doing a lot of, international speaking gigs actually around customer service. My why is always, I hate people being treated badly. That's my thing. It has nothing to do with customers or employees. It was literally, I hate bullies. I hate people being mistreated. So it led me into the customer service space because my background is a lot of customer service. I was at a conference in San Francisco in 2017, doing a panel on customer service. And just for giggles, I thought I'd walk around and talk to other attendees and speakers and go, so what are you doing for employees? The blank looks on the faces was heartbreaking. It was almost like oh yeah, we should care about them too. Like it was customer equals money, right? That is the overarching umbrella. And to empower employees and benefit employees, that was just a foreign concept to them. So I pivoted because again, I hate bullies. So I replaced customers with employees, and it's the exact same approach. Now, keep in mind, the COVID changed a lot around perceptions around what people will put up with, what people won't put up with, generationally, everything across the board. But in 2017, you could Google books about customers versus books about employee engagement, vastly different numbers. Because again, it was all about the bottom line and the dollar, not about mental health, psychological safety, which are much more buzzy words now, but they weren't even 5-6 years ago. So that sort of pivoted me into this space going, why are we not having this conversation? Why are we treating people like crap in the workplace that they have trauma that they're carrying for 20, 30 years? I'm no different. I've had horrible experiences with leaders. So that's where it's always about the humans for me. And that's where I sort of like, I didn't see a lot of podcasts having honest conversations. I saw a lot of podcasts about selling books. I saw a lot of podcasts about keywords, but I didn't see honest, okay, but what does that look like in an actual workplace? That theory, that approach, that tactic. And so those are the conversations that, and truthfully, I'm selfish as hell. I wanted to learn a lot too. So it really helped me sort of grow my brain around this space. I've been a leader for years, but I wanted to expand my own brain into this space.
Yeah.
I'm particularly fascinated by your reference to uh, the customer service applications and behavior for employees.
Sure.
I have been in this employee space for most of my life, and in the Chamber of Commerce space, which is about small business. I cannot believe or even begin to list the amount of instances where employees are just collateral. They're not treated as really
They're cogs in a
human
wheel.
beings.
They're cogs in a wheel.
And then someone, talks about how their business is working. I do a bit of consulting and investigation, and in fact, it's because that's broken.
Yep.
But I have that personal experience of that being rather pervasive. And now I'm hearing it from you. So why isn't that being recognized that employees are as important as customers?
There's lots of reasons. I think I came up with a whole list. I got to come up with a better term because it sounds so negative. The 7 deadly sins of leadership, which are basically the things that leaders do or don't do, and whether they're aware of it or not, but gets in the way of them becoming better leaders or encouraging their employees. And the number one, I won't go through all of them, but the number one that always comes up for me is I'm too busy. It is the biggest piece of BS that I always hear about people not having time for, I can give you 5 minutes. I'm like, you can give the person you're responsible and accountable to 5 minutes to help them with professional development, the question they have, some help. Like, where are your priorities? Oh, wait, it's serving the leader above you who also is a horrible leader. Like it is a systemic problem because they're also too busy. And again, I have so much empathy and compassion for leaders because of the lack of training, because of the lack of ability to have boundaries, lack of ability to have time management. They're being slaves to their calendar. They're not leaders. They are commodities for the next meeting they need to go to. So there's no ability for them to lead because the biggest sin of being too busy is about being productive and fixing other people's problems rather than being responsible for a team to keep them, to nurture them, to retain them. And that's sort of one of the biggest problems. So to your initial question, why are we not prioritizing employees? Because we're not being allowed and permitted to do it by the people that are leading us. Leaders are employees
I don't want to hear this.
I know. It's systemically a big problem.
But there's your boldness that we talked about initially, John. There's that risk taking that we talked about. You as a leader should be able to take the time, and you will not be rewarded for taking the time with your employees. I've had that. I've been told, why are you so honest with your employees or with your staff? Why do you talk so much to your staff? What's this meeting about? I'm like, it's about us actually trying to get to know each other and build a trust and relationship.
Okay, no, this can't be happening.
It actually happened. It actually happened.
It can't be happening.
Yeah, it actually happened recently.
Yeah. So the problem is that most of those people, you'll love this, John. Most of the people that are in the roles that Rishi's talking about aren't leaders. They took a job so they could get paid better, not because they were leaders. It was the only way they could make more money. Because we don't do raises as much anymore in the world. We don't reward, right? So the only way we can move up, and I don't mean they want more responsibility. A lot of people are pretty happy with where they are and what they do. But if they want to make any more money in a world of high inflation and everything's costing more, they need to push themselves up the ladder, regardless of the fact that they're a leader, much less barely a manager. So they're putting themselves in these positions, which is only doing further damage to these cultures and these organizations, because the people above them are not finding the right fits. They're finding bums in seats to fill roles because they're too busy to do their jobs properly.
When we put this thing together, Rish, and I'll be brief here, but I was a bit concerned that we were just one player in in a ton of players, like in a very, very crowded field. And then I thought, well, I have my lived experience, which no one else does. So I'm going to talk about that. What is not occurring to me is that this fundamental relationship in business and the workplace between an employer and an employee, or a boss and a staff member, isn't just the priority place. It just should be the priority place for anyone. And there should be like overwhelming amounts of training and emphasis and priority on this. And that is not the case.
No.
I'm blown away.
Even if, like, I'm putting together a housing project, right? Even going through a subdivision, I'm dealing with a surveyor and a designer and the printer and the arborist. And so, one person doesn't respect another person, or someone tries to lead, or we have a contractor helping us out as well, who's doing a great job. But you come into these hiccups, and these hiccups then cause a ripple. So who's going to take the time to bring everyone together to stop that ripple? Okay, calm down. Let's all get together. Like, that's time and energy. And this is my money and my housing project. Like, I'm like, no, go. But you have to say, that's okay. Let's take this time because we did have a hiccup. Let's have a conversation, be it WhatsApp, email. We don't have to all sit together. But even just that is lacking in so many areas and so many industries, of just that empathetic look. Like, just stop and think and talk, and to be reprimanded to try to have a conversation. And I hate the word staff, like with your team, with your organization, with your colleagues. And I was just flabbergasted that would happen, but it is, and it does happen. No, we gotta move. I'm like, what are you talking about?
It's always about it's about the productivity. It's about the deadline, not about it's about the destination, not the journey. It's about, because the ends justify
But they're
the means.
interlinked.
You
Without
would think so.
emphasis on the journey, there's no destination.
What's going on here, John? Where have you been working for the past 40? I want to go work with you.
For myself, I don't.
And there you go.
Right?
Jeez.
And how I treat staff and okay. So we're hitting that critical sort of 20-minute mark when a lot of
Sure.
people go, whoa, got to get out of here. At least that's been my experience. Russell, are there some other themes you mentioned? There are 7 leadership themes that you've categorized. Want to go through some more for the benefit of our audience of what you've experienced?
Sure. I won't run through a list because nobody wants to actually have anybody talk listicles at them. But I will throw maybe 2
Listicles.
more.
I love
listicles.
that.
Back in my content creation days. I think, and so the too busy sin is the sin of negligence. That's sort of where I put that space. The sin of, what else is it? The sin of apathy probably is another one that really drives me nuts. And that's where there's a lack of curiosity. It is where leaders will just look at results, numbers, and not ask any questions and then move on to the next thing. They make arrogant assumptions about things, as opposed to like, I know better, or there's no
I have more
follow-up.
education or something like
Yeah.
that.
Or say there's a internal survey result in the organization, and it paints a horrible picture of executive. And they're like, oh, I guess that was just a snapshot in time. Moving on. I'm like, but then why do you do it? Then what is the intent of this? Because you only do these surveys every 6 months, year, 2 year, 3 years. If you're going to take these importantly, then you need to be curious about why people might think this. Why? Here's another one. So if there's a big staff meeting and there's that one person in the back of the room that's being maybe a little too honest and a little too, everybody goes, man, I can't believe blah, blah, blah did that. But I'm like, but why? Why did that person feel the need that the only place that they could be that honest was in front of everybody? How has their manager failed them? How has their manager's manager failed them? Why is it now that they feel like they have nothing left to lose and they want to do this in front of everybody? Why are we not more curious about that? So that's a sin that I see, or hear about quite a bit, is that there's no follow-up, there's no curiosity. It's just, the negative aspect or the assumption of something.
Yeah, it's very dangerous in business and associations if you let it get to there. That true conflict that can happen. There goes the mental illness. There goes the arguments. There, like it could even lead to some egregious kind of assault. Who knows? And then you're into a lawsuit. And this kind of goes into that boundary critique conversation in your own personal mastery as a leader, and having some of these uncomfortable conversations, proactively create that space and allow people to talk openly and honestly about what's actually happening in your organization. It has to be done. But I guess now this is what we're learning because it hasn't been done. Again, it's about the bottom line, the bottom line, the bottom line. But like again, I don't know what the solution is. This is the podcast and continue to talk about it, what Russell's doing, but just driving this home. Like I see it now on the radar a little bit more, but people are still getting promoted into positions they have no clue
Nope.
how to
Nope.
be the true
And
leader.
that
Or in
because we're
my
not
mind.
asking.
But
No,
again,
you're
it's a
right.
personal thing, right? In my mind, they're not being true leaders, and it's scary. But I don't know. I have my own perceptions and bias of what a leader should be too, and hopefully I'm right.
Yeah, I mean, like all these theories and experiences and conversations I'm testing against leaders across the world and these theories, and they're like, yeah, that's everywhere. So it's not like I'm just talking to myself here. These are a lot from experiences and a lot tested against people that have doctorates and really know what the hell they're talking about. And we're having some honest conversations that really get to the heart of these things.
Wow.
The other part that kind of drives me nuts is the sin of irresponsibility. And this is where accountability is a problem. The thing is that we talk about responsibility all the time. Who's responsible? Who owns this? Who's responsible? Responsibility isn't accountability. Responsibility is a job description on a resume of what's in your portfolio, what is under your, you know, accountability is what if it goes wrong? What if your team underperforms? Is anybody being punished? Is anybody being trained? I'll give you a perfect example of this, of the lack of accountability that is a big problem in organizations. Every organization has bad leadership. Somebody in there is a bad leader. Always. That's just the pick. We've talked about that this is just a reoccurring thing. What I always find really interesting is we focus on the bad leader. They need to be better. They need to be trained properly. They need to be fired, whatever it is. Here's the question I ask. Why do we never look to their boss? They hired them. They trained them. They were responsible for those one-on-one meetings. And yet we never look at the organization that provided the environment that allowed that bad leadership. So where's the accountability? We're just going to get rid of the bad leader and replace them with what? Without fixing anything. So we don't keep anybody accountable for this bad leadership ecosystems that we talk about. Well, but again, we'll talk about responsibility till we're blue in the face, but nobody's being held accountable for it.
And the poor team, right? The poor individuals who have to sit there and listen and raise this individual up to try. People are doing that. They're trying to help this poor person, this individual who is the leader who's stuck, and you can see it, right? And it's so vivid, and this person doesn't belong. But exactly with what Russell's saying, like, where's the training? Where's support? Where's the help? And I am empathetic because I see folks getting be it in construction, be it in a nonprofit,
Sure.
other different sectors. I see them being hoisted into these positions for whatever reason it might be. Good, you made more sales, you're making us more money. Let's give you a promotion. But it's unreal that there isn't a basic common sense leadership program that they should go. It should be a must.
Well,
it's the Michael Scott problem. It's the Michael Scott problem from The Office, right? You are a really good salesman, so now you're going to be a manager. Wait, we just got a really crappy leader and lost a real good salesman.
Mm-hmm. Well, on those notes, we'll probably end for today. But it sounds to me like Russell will be talking to you a lot more in the future if you're willing to join us.
Sure.
Once again, host of the Relationships at Work podcast, 200 of them almost plus. And clearly some really fascinating insights and conversations that I think other folks should hear. Certainly reinforces the fact that we're doing this because really, like I thought, there'd kind of be some like a myriad of different theories and programs and training going on. I was not prepared for ostensibly nothing or a little, or not awareness at the very least that
it's a systemic problem worldwide. We see it. We've been through it. Been through it myself with unfortunate, I'll say unfortunate, I won't say the word I wanted to use, unfortunate leadership
Sure.
to great men, to great leadership. I've seen it, and the impact that it makes. Something, just saying something. I'll lean on this. Just say something kind. If you're a leader, just say something kind to someone who's working for you. Just one little thing, and the impact that
There's
will make.
And to your point, Rishi, there's so much opportunity. Like as much as I talk about the show about where it hurts and our pain points and blind spots, there's so much opportunity, and there are so many great leaders out there. It's just it's a system that we need to fix.
Yeah.
Individuals are great. It's just the system that has a problem.
It'll happen.
Okay,
No, it
gentlemen,
won't,
thank
but
you.
I'm optimistic.
No, we're gonna change it. We are.
There you go.
Okay, guys, thank you very much. Until we meet again, thanks so much for such an interesting conversation.
Thanks for having me.